The rain began long before the traveler arrived, long before the lamps were lit, long before the narrow cobblestone streets exhaled their nightly mist. It was the kind of rain that didn't fall, it settled, as though the clouds were softly laying themselves over the town like a blanket. The sound was delicate, persistent, soothing, and it wrapped the little seaside town of Brindleborough in a rhythm no one ever truly got used to, yet everyone cherished. Visitors often said the town felt like a painting. Rows of tall, colorful houses stood shoulder to shoulder beside the canal, blue, red, soft, green each one, reflecting its hues across the rain-rippled water. Windows glowed gold in the dark, like warm eyes quietly keeping watch, and from every roof, gutter, and balcony, thin threads of rain slid downward, like glistening silver strings on an invisible harp. And it was into this gentle downpour that Adrian found himself wandering, suitcase in hand, coat damp around the shoulders, boots tapping softly against the glistening stones. He had not meant to stay. Brindleborough was simply where his feet led him after a difficult year, one full of endings he had untiastu for, decisions he wasn't proud of, and the heavy silence that comes when a life no longer fits the shape it used to have. He'd told himself he was traveling for clarity, though he secretly feared he'd left clarity behind a long time ago. But as he walked into the quiet town center, he noticed something strange. People weren't rushing through the rain. They walked slowly, peacefully, heads tilted slightly upward, as if listening to something he couldn't hear yet. Some carried umbrellas, some didn't. It didn't seem to matter. They moved with an easy stillness, like dancers in a gentle, never-ending waltz with the weather. Adrian paused under the awning of a small bakery and watched. Across the square, an elderly woman in a yellow coat paused beside a lamppost. She closed her eyes, breathed deeply, and let the rain fall across her face. After a moment, she smelled a soft, content smell and continued on her way. It was then that the baker stepped outside, wiping his hands on his apron. "First night in town?" Adrian blinked. "Is it that obvious?" The baker laughed kindly. "Only because you're standing under something. In Brindleborough, we don't hide from the rain." Adrian glanced at the drizzle beyond the awning. "You enjoy it." "We listen to it," the man corrected gently. "There's a difference." He offered a warm nod. "If you're looking for a place to stay, the Haven Inn still has rooms. Follow the sound of the old clock tower. And wait tut." He disappeared back inside, leaving the scent of fresh bread drifting into the night. Adrian stepped back into the rain slowly this time. It wasn't as cold as he'd expected. It carried a soft, soothing warmth, as though the storm itself was tired and only wished to rest. He could hear it now, too. The layered music of droplets on roofs, on water, on leaves. The subtle harmony of distant gutters and whispering branches. The deeper, slower rhythm of the canal pushing against its stone banks. He felt something in his chest loosen. Not much, but enough. He followed the sound of the clock tower through winding alleys, until he arrived at a tall brick building with ivy trailing down its sides like dark green rain. A small wooden sign hung above the door to Haven and Rooms, warmth and quiet. He stepped inside. The lobby was lit by amber lamps that cast a gentle glow over worn wooden floors and shelves filled with books left by past guests. A crackling fireplace murmured softly from the corner, and behind the counter stood a woman with silver hair pulled into a loose bun. "Welcome," she said, her voice low and warm. "You've brought the rain with you." Adrian frowned slightly. "Hasn't it been raining all evening?" "Oh, it rains every night," she replied with a soft smile. "But each person brings their own kind of rain when they arrive. Yours seems gentle." Adrian didn't know what to say, so he simply nodded. She handed him a small brass key. "Room 12. It overlooks the canal. The rain sounds lovely when it dances on the water." Adrian thanked her and climbed the narrow staircase. The hallway smelled faintly of lavender and something older memories, perhaps of people who had slept here before him. Room 12 was small but inviting. A single bed with a wool blanket, a window facing the canal, and a small wooden desk with a candle already lit. He set his suitcase down, exhaled slowly, and walked to the window. The canal shimmered below, rain dimpling its surface like thousands of gentle fingertips. Houses across the water glowed through the mist, their colors softened into dreamy reflections. A single boat drifted lazily along the canal, its lantern swinging like a sleepy heartbeat. He rested his forehead against the cool glass. For the first time in a long while, he felt quiet inside. The next morning, the rain was still falling, not as heavily, but enough to drape the town in a soft veil. Adrian stepped into the wet, cobblestone street and wandered without direction. Brindleborough in daylight was even more enchanting. Every raindrop seemed to hold a bit of color from the houses, scattering tiny rainbows wherever they landed. The air was damp and cool, carrying the scent of sea salt and something floral he couldn't quite identify. He found the old clock tower easily. It stood tall beside the canal, its bells silent, as though keeping time was too urgent a task for a town that preferred to linger. Nearby, an old man with a wool cap sat beneath a small gazebo, sketching the rain. Not the town, the rain itself. Adrian watched him for a moment before approaching. "What are you drawing?" "Memories," the man said simply. "Rain remembers things we forget." Adrian wasn't sure he understood. Like what? The old man tapped his pencil against the page. Like how to slow down to listen. How to let things fall away when they need to. He paused, then looked up at Adrian with kind, clouded eyes. "You came here because something was too heavy." "Yes." Adrian swallowed. "I suppose so. Let the rain carry it for a while," the man murmured. "It knows how to wash away what we no longer need." As Adrian walked on, he wondered how the old man had known. But here, in a town that listened to the rain, perhaps nothing truly needed to be said aloud. Hours passed gently. He visited a tea house where the windows fogged in soothing patterns, and the owner served tea, infused with warm spices that made his whole body feel grounded. He watched the rain slide slowly down the glass, turning the world outside into a watercolor painting. He wandered through a tiny bookshop that smelled of old pages and quiet dreams. The shopkeeper, a soft-spoken woman with ink stains on her fingers, recommended a tattered poetry book about storms. "Not to escape the rain," she said, "but to understand it." He bought it. He walked along the canal as the afternoon mist deepened, and he noticed something remarkable. For a town so soaked in rain, no one ever seemed cold, or hurried, or inconvenienced. Children splashed in puddles, elderly couples strolled arm in arm. Artists sketched, musicians played soft, slow melodies from beneath awnings. Rain, here, was not an interruption. It was a companion. A rhythm the town had chosen to move with, rather than resist. And little by little, Adrian felt himself falling into that rhythm too. That night, as the rain thickened into a steady, soothing downpour, Adrian found himself returning to the Haven Inn. He wasn't tired, he simply wanted to listen. He sat by the window, the candle flickering beside him. Outside, the rain performed its gentle symphony. Tap, tap, tapped on the windowsills. Soft sheer across the water, a melodic drip from a rooftop gutter, the quiet thrum of raindrops against the boats, and beneath it all, the distant heartbeat of the ocean. Adrian closed his eyes. The year he'd left behind felt far away, not gone, but softened, drenched by something larger, calmer, wiser. He didn't have answers yet, but he had stillness, and maybe, for now, that was the first step toward something new. A knock sounded at the door. It was the innkeeper, holding a tray with tea and a slice of warm cake. "You looked like you needed something comforting," she said with a kind smile. Adrian blinked. "How could you tell?" She glanced toward the window. "Everyone who listens to the rain long enough reveals their heart." He laughed softly. "Is that so?" "Oh, yes," she said. "It's why people come here, to let the rain speak to them." She set the tray down and paused at the door. "Tomorrow morning, go to the far end of the canal. There's a bench beneath a willow tree. The rain sounds different under its branches." And she was gone. Adrian whispered into the quiet room. "Thank you," though he wasn't sure if he meant the innkeeper, the town, or the rain itself. Maybe all three. He slept deeply that night, lulled by the sound of the storm, the safest, warmest sleep he'd had in months. The next morning, he found the bench beneath the willow. The tree's long branches arched above him like an emerald canopy, each leaf collecting droplets until they fell in soft, rhythmic drips around him. The rain sounded different here, gentler, layered, like someone whispering memories through the leaves. Adrian sat still for a long time, breathing slowly, letting the world fall away. He didn't think about the year behind him or the choices he regretted. He simply listened, and as he listened, he felt something shift inside him queerly, naturally, like a knot loosening. He realized that Brindleborough hadn't given him answers. It had given him permission to stop searching for them. The rain landed softly on his hands, cool and reassuring. He smiled. For the first time in a long while, he felt ready for whatever came next, not because he had found clarity, but because he had found calm. He stood, stretched, and looked around the quiet town bathed in soft rain. Maybe he would stay another day, or two, or as long as it took for the rain to teach him everything it wished to. After all, some towns you visit, but you stay until the storm inside you finally learns to listen. Thank you for watching. If this story found you at the right time, let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more moments of peace. Take care.